Welcome to the series of sessions on Oracle Fusion receivables. In our previous session, we have seen how we can create a transaction of billing invoice, debit memo, as well as a credit memo and its application from the billing work page. We have also seen how we can create receipts, and for check receipts, how we can remit the same into the bank account from our accounts receivable work page. So having seen the transactions and its receipts, in this session, let's see how we can create an adjustment against these transactions. What is an adjustment? An adjustment is an amount added or subtracted from the amount due of a transaction, like an invoice or a debit memo. Adjustments can also be made on on-account credits as well as deposit transactions. But when we can increase the customer receivable by creating a debit memo, or we can reduce it by creating a credit memo transaction, then why is the business need of creating adjustments? This is because adjustments are created against transactions. Now, what are the business needs? Say for instance, while creating receipts and applying the receipt to the invoices, many a times you might see small outstanding balances in customer account. This small outstanding balances might be due to rounding, or customer has paid the full amount but maybe due to some reason like bank charges, some small balance is still due in the customer account. Now customer has no intention to pay this $4 on this particular invoice, neither this $9.5 on this 1042730 invoice. So in such cases, it is necessary to create an adjustment against these invoices to close their balance due. The same can be done by searching the invoice and creating an adjustment against the same. So just copy the invoice number and go to your transactions billing page. Here you can create an adjustment by managing the transactions as well as by searching the specific transaction from search, copy and paste the transaction number which you want to adjust. Now after opening the invoice, from actions LOV, you can click on manage adjustments button in order to create an adjustment. This is the manage adjustments page. You can add adjustment to the invoice by clicking on this create plus sign. So system will open the create adjustment form, and here you need to select the receivable activity against which you are creating this adjustment. Let's say adjustments for bad debt, transaction adjustment. Here we are writing off the balance of this account due to round in balance. So we can select round in balance write off. Now depending on the receivable activity selected, system will decide the corresponding account. And here we can see that the account which system has selected is rounding. Select the adjustment type, whether you are creating a charge adjustment, or you are creating an adjustment against freight, or you are creating the adjustment of the entire invoice, selecting which system will select the entire invoice amount, or you are creating a line or a text adjustment. So let's select line adjustments and enter the adjustment amount of -4 in order to close the invoice. Optionally, you can also select the adjustment reason. Let's say write off, and input some comments for your future reference. Now clicking on the submit button will create this adjustment, and if the adjustment amount is within your approval limit, the adjustment will be created in the status of approved. Otherwise, the adjustment status will be pending. So for this particular user Casey Brown, the adjustment approval limit was $5. So system has created the adjustment in approved status. And if we are to come back on invoice and view its balance details from actions, view balance details, here we can see that against the $11 invoice, $7.32 receipt was created and $4 got adjusted. Also, you can go back to the adjustments in order to do its create accounting and view its accounting impact. From actions, say account in draft, and view accounting will show me the accounting of this transaction. So system has debited the rounding expense account and credited the receivables. And as I said, as this adjustment was within the approval limit of Casey Brown, so this got created in the status of approved. Let's try to create one more adjustment. So let's create one more adjustment against this invoice of 1042730, which has an outstanding balance of $9.5, and we'll do adjustment through manage transactions form. Search the invoice which you would like to adjust, and here is your invoice. You can open the same and create adjustment by clicking on the invoice number hyperlink. Alternatively, you can also go to actions and directly select manage adjustments. Also note that you can create multiple adjustments against each transaction for both positive as well as negative amounts. Positive adjustments might be required in case that invoice amount is wrongly entered. So in that case, you can also add a line by adding or reducing the amount as applicable. In this case, let's again select the round and balance right of adjustment of $9.5 against the invoice lines. So I'll select the amount in negative of $9.5 in order to write off the balance due of this invoice. Also, you can enter an adjustment reason and click on submit button. And here is the system pop-up that first of all it has created the adjustment, but as it was outside of the approval limits of KC Brown, so the same cannot be approved and the adjustment status is pending approval. So system will maintain an action history that adjustment was created on so and so date by which user along with the comments and its status. Now let's log in through another user Emmy Marlin who has sufficient approval limits for approving this adjustments. So through the username of Emmy Marlin, go to the billing work area. Now as Emmy has sufficient approval powers, she can approve the adjustment from approve adjustments form as well as adjustments info tile, which will show what are the adjustments pending her approval in the current period. So here is the adjustment which was created from the username of KC Brown. So Emmy can select the adjustment and take appropriate action. Suppose as per the organization policy, only the balance pending up to $5 can be written off due to rounding. So this particular adjustment reason and the account which got selected is not correct. So Emmy can very well reject the adjustment or can request information from KC Brown. Supposing she rejects the adjustment. So citing organization policies, Emmy has rejected the adjustment. Once rejected, the approval info tile will update as well as KC Brown will be able to see the action under the action history that the same is rejected by Emmy Marlin along with the comments. Now KC will not be able to create accounting for this particular adjustment until and unless it is approved. Let us create the adjustment once again with the proper reason. So now KC selects the adjustment reason of adjustment due to bad debt write-off. Here a note to implementers that if the transaction type does not allow over application, you cannot enter an amount that would reverse the balance of the transaction. Say you cannot enter here -95 if the corresponding transaction type does not allow over application. If it does, then the invoice balance will fall into negative due to the adjustment created. Having said that, also bear in mind that adjustments do not follow the natural application rules. This lets you adjust transactions in either direction regardless of the natural application setting. So here I will select the correct amount and will complete the adjustment. And depending on the receivable activity, system will select corresponding offset account for the adjustment. So let's submit it. Adjustment status will be pending approval, and once the same is approved by Emmy, the proper comments, and there the adjustment status will change to approved, upon which you will be able to create accounting for the same. So system has created this adjustment by debiting the bad debt write-off expense account and crediting the receivables. And from here you can see that the outstanding balance of the transaction has been updated to 0 due to the adjustment activity. A history of all the activities against an invoice is maintained. Like whenever you create a receipt against the transaction or apply a credit memo or do adjustments, the same is maintained in view transaction activities. Like against this particular invoice, payment has been made by customer of 1165, then an adjustment has been made which was rejected, and then again an adjustment has been made which was approved. So here as you select the transaction, system will also show you the details of the transactions done. So this is how we can create adjustments against receivable transactions. And system maintains a tight control over the adjustments by providing approval limits to different users So you have the convenience of increasing or decreasing the invoice amount, maybe for rounding difference or due to wrong invoice amount entered, or even to write off the bad debt. You have the convenience of adjustment as well as control over who can make adjustments up to what amount. This was about invoice adjustments. Thank you for listening.